taking sustenance and shelter from somebody else and justifying it by your existence is evil. It's like saying that this person exists for me to exploit them and to have them do what I need to have done in order to support me. And at the very least, okay, no one can reasonably argue that a fertilized egg is not doing that. You can take a fertilized egg and put it in a petri dish. You can take a petri dish, put eggs down there, and put a fertilized egg in it. Okay, they're still taking sustenance from their surroundings. If they're in a petri dish, that's one thing. They're not obviously not harming somebody else to do that. Okay, but if you put them in a human body, it's a different story. Once you violate the sanctity of the body, and you start to feed on that body, or be a parasite on that body, or even be a symbiote to that body against its will, against the will of that person. Normally we'd call that rape, I think. Okay? If I were to penetrate a female body, or even threaten to penetrate a female body, hell would fall down on me from the Christian conservatives. Okay? But because I haven't been born yet, it's okay. Because I'm a newly fertilized egg, that's okay. Don't parasites have newly fertilized eggs when they reproduce in the body? Produce, what do you call them? The little, there's two forms of, I'm trying to think of this. Two forms, at least, there's a full-blown adult parasite, the tapeworm or whatever is crawling around inside you. And then there's the like zygote type, a form. They lay their eggs in the human body. The eggs, reach a stage where they mature and become adults. Or at least, there's at least one stage after the eggs where they become, before they become adults. Same thing with reptiles. They have the egg stage. You have fertilized eggs, and the eggs, incubate in whatever they incubate in, and then the life form inside of it, splits the eggs open, crawls out into the normal environment. Now they're not, maybe not adult yet, because it assumes that they've stopped growing, but they're still viable adults who are living in the environment they have after they come out of an egg. A fly, generally flies basically have larvae that the eggs are put inside of a host body, to sustain the eggs, keep them warm, protect them. Then the eggs mature to zygotes or larvae, okay? And the larvae feeds on the host body. They feed on the blood, they feed on the tissue. It's one way that is used medically to remove dead skin from inside of a body of, or somebody who's been injured. They will put eggs of parasites in that person's body to eat that flesh. That's what they do. Okay? It's medicinal if that person wants it done. It's not medicinal if they don't want it done. I'm not gonna walk up to somebody and say, well, hey, you might have some necrotic tissue inside you. I'm gonna put this larvae inside you. Just eat it and everything, and then it'll all be taken care of by your body's natural defenses. No one in their right mind would call that a good thing to do to somebody who doesn't want it done. Okay? Nobody in their right mind could go into your brain, could go into your liver, your heart, anywhere, and just start munching away at you. There are people out there right now that are full of parasites right this minute in the United States of America. Okay? They don't know that they have parasites. Those parasites are fucking enjoying themselves in their body. Okay? Nobody in their right mind would call putting such a larva in somebody else not a crime. It's not something that's a crime. What you're doing is you're taking a particular fertilized eggs in that person's body and forcing them through threat of incarceration to actually carry that child to keep it from dying, for sure. But that doesn't mean that the zygote itself is free of sin. I don't expect more crime or sin from a baby than a baby is capable of. I don't expect more crime or sin from a 5-year-old than a 5-year-old is capable of. I don't expect it from a 25-year-old man at summer camp somewhere in the Adirondacks, the mountains, Adirondacks, excuse me, alone with a bunch of 3-year-old girls or 5-year-old girls or 10-year-old girls. I don't expect any more sin from that 25-year-old man than he's capable of. It doesn't mean that if he commits a sin, it's not a sin because he's a 25-year-old man. Okay? This whole argument that it's not a sin because it's a fertilized cell is nonsense. And the entire argument that for 9 months this child has to, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Let's say for 9 months this woman has to carry this baby, that there's no sin in that. We just don't know it. It doesn't mean it's not there. Elon Musk has shown us that this week. We don't know what corruption and what embezzlement and what negligence and what lack of inefficiency there is in the federal government until somebody goes in there and finds it. Okay? It doesn't mean for Elon Musk to do it that it's not a crime. It doesn't mean because Trump decided that he was going to hire a private citizen who's, by the way, being paid by the federal government to do contract work for the federal government to go out and invade the rest of the federal government and break all kinds of information protection laws, consumer protection laws, privacy laws, all kinds of government regulations because he's not a member of the government officially, that then it's okay for him to do it. It's just as illegal for Elon Musk and Doge to do what Trump is telling them to do as if it would be if some Chinese hacker did it. It's the same thing. The fact that they have authorization, somebody told them that they could do it, doesn't make it legal. And if you're going to argue that what he's doing now is legal, then it kind of makes sense that you'd argue that a zygote or whatever is not committing any sin by being brought to life, let's say, and then being hosted by the mother against their will. That doesn't make it not a criminal act because you might want that to happen. In fact, the crime is in your forcing the host mother to put up with it, to suffer it. And I don't think there's much different between that situation, a pregnant woman who doesn't want to have a baby decides to have an abortion. I don't think there's much difference between that and the church elders forcing her to have a child, or the government forcing her to have a child, or her mother, or the father forcing her to have a child. I don't think there's any difference between those things, but they go farther than that. When I start hearing about people saying, even if you're raped, you have to carry that child because the child is innocent of rape. You can't punish the unborn child for the sins of the father. That is total bullshit. That child would not exist if it was not for the sins of the father. It is inherently a product of that sin. And for anyone to say that somebody else, some other person has to have a child because they were raped and got pregnant is the height of fucking hypocrisy. And this is the whole issue. It just does not follow that because you think the ends are good, that whatever means you take to accomplish those ends are therefore justified. That is the most self-rationalizing and self-empowering bullshit I've ever heard. Anybody and their mother can come up with a reason why doing the wrong thing is okay as long as the intention was good. Any idiot can do that. And it's just crazy to think that that makes sense, which is what the real problem I have with both Trump and MAGA and the Congress people who pass these laws and the Supreme Court that allows such laws to be seen as constitutional. You don't have a constitutional act by exploiting one person for the benefit of somebody else. I don't care if they were innocent. I don't care if being born is a process of absolute cleansing, okay? I don't care if one person is forced to suffer as a result against their will for the benefit of somebody else. That's a crime. Okay? That is a crime. It is that simple. And so to me, the whole issue of it being, innocence at conception is a side issue. That may or may not be true, but when you assume that it is true, when your theological background says that it is true, and you use your assumptions and your theology to justify forcing somebody else to carry the product of a sexual assault, a violent sexual assault against their person, that undoubtedly is stepping into evil. There's no question in my mind about that. I am not against children. I am not somebody who wants to see women have abortions. I certainly don't think it's a great thing, to have an abortion, just for the financial part of it or the loss of responsibility. But for me to sit there and tell somebody else what to do with their body is a whole different problem. Okay? It doesn't affect me, and it definitely affects the child. But look, face it, that child wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the mother. You can't untie them. Once you put a fertilized egg into somebody, or you fertilize the eggs in them, you can't untie that child and the mother. You can't do it. That's why today we charge people with 2 murders for killing a pregnant woman. Okay? 2 murders, not just 1. We know they're coupled. We completely understand that they're coupled, but it's still her body, not yours. And if you can't understand that basic fact and you can't handle that, then you are the problem when it comes to abortion, not the mother. The mother has every right to terminate that life inside of her, as long as that life depends on her. And not before she gets an abortion, not after she gets an abortion, it's before she gets an abortion. As long as that life depends on her, okay, she has every right to terminate it. Because she's not the unborn fetus. She's a human being. She has rights of her own. And I just think it is absolute bullshit for some guy to put on a robe and carry a Bible and walk into a church and slap that Bible down on top of a pulpit and say, "Thou shalt not have an abortion. It is an intolerable sin against that unborn life." Who the hell are you fucking trying to kid? Okay? There's one thing that I know for a very good fact, that if I was a woman and some asshole dude tried to tell me that I couldn't have an abortion, I would be going, fuck you, at high speed. If I want to have an abortion, I'm having one. As long as that baby is in my body and sucking my blood and living in my belly, and I want to get him out of there, he's gone. And if you don't fucking want to deal with it, that's your problem. But here's the thing. If you're perfectly free to take that 6-day-old fetus out of my body and take care of it all by yourself, you go right ahead if you want to do that. Can I force you to do it? Hell no. I can't force you to do it any more than you can force me. And if MAGA wants to talk about our government causing problems and needing to have a serious reform, they need to look at themselves also and say, well, maybe what's wrong with me should be reformed also. And this, in my opinion, is unquestionably something that's just blatantly wrong about MAGA. And these Christians and these religious people and all this other bullshit, when you start walking around telling people they have to have a live organism in their body because it's a human, you're out of your fucking mind. You're out of your fucking mind. Just as much as a 35-year-old guy would be wrong to tell a 12-year-old girl that she has to have his penis inside it. Just as much as a 50-year-old man would be wrong to tell a 29-year-old woman she has to marry this guy. Those are all wrong. They're equally wrong. Equally wrong. Not one level or another. When you force yourself on somebody else and tell them they have to deal with you, that's wrong.